Thank you very much. It's a little bit complicated to speak in the afternoon after lunch, but my life is much easier after the presentations this morning because all my colleagues, they did a great job putting in our mind how important is the cuticle. And it's much easier for me to go and to present, the solution that we developed for the cuticle. I will not talk about it because I think my colleagues this morning, they cover all this part. And, it was, an important contribution from their side to understand how the cuticle is important in plants. And let's go on to see different ways to improve the plant cuticle. Ashraf was talking a little bit about this point this morning, talking about nutrition, perhaps hormones, and other ways to improve the plant cuticle health. Because we have been talking during this morning and during the day how important is the cuticle in the production and in the fruit quality. As Luis mentioned, as Cultiva, we're licensing a technology from Oregon State University years ago, and we have been working in order to develop this technology and to introduce this technology to improve yield and fruit quality in different crops. And if we look at SureSeal and Parka, some of the characteristics are listed in this table. And one of the characteristics of our technology is the elasticity. And our product can in some way to go with the fruit development and to cover and to improve the cuticle against the development of the fruit during the season. It's an hydrophobic product because it's a blend of phospholipids and polysaccharides. And the phospholipids are bringing this characteristic, the hydrophobicity, that will help at the end of the day to reduce cracking, but also will interfere with the pathogens when they are trying to colonize the tissue, because all of us, we know that the humidity and also the temperature will affect the colonization of the tissue by the pathogens. From the agronomical point of view, and when we are talking about the field and characteristics that can help in the field to the growers and people that is working in the orchards, is the tank mix. We can mix this product, SureSeal Parka, with different other chemical products like insecticides, fungicides, plant growth regulators, or even fertilizers. And from the logistic point of view, this is a critical point because, we don't need to apply Parka or SureSeal alone. We can combine with other products that we are applying in certain period during the season. It's permeable. We are not affecting the gas exchange at plant level, in the leaves or in the fruit. All the components in the formulation are edible. And another important characteristic, and we will see a picture during my presentation, is a clear product. We are not affecting the fruit appearance or the leaf appearance. That, from the post-harvest point of view, could be really important, especially when we are trying to mitigate, sunburn, because we can control sunburn or reduce sunburn incidence with Parka without to affect the appearance of the fruit. It's totally different to the white products that growers can use in the field to reduce sunburn. As Luis mentioned, soon after to licensing this technology from Oregon State University, we started to run research in different crops and in different areas. And based on the results coming from years and years of research, we identified 3 areas where our technology is improving yield and fruit quality. The first one is more related to mechanical properties of the cuticle and how the technology can improve that. And it's related to, reduce the microfractures, increase the cuticle elasticity, increase the water repellency. That is important. We will see that in some next slides, the results in this area. Also, another area where we are working and we are trying to understand much better how our technology can help plants is stress mitigation. Ashraf was talking this morning about the stress and how important is the stress now. We are in this, global climate change scenario where it's supposed that during the coming years we'll have more, events with high temperatures, more rain in different periods during the season, and how important could be, to improve the cuticle in this scenario where our plants will be under stress. and more stress. But based on results coming from different cooperators and institutions, we saw that the application of our technology can reduce the oxidative compounds. Ashraf was talking this morning about that and how those compounds can, at the end of the day, kill the cells and kill the plants and kill the tissue. But when we apply, our technology, we can reduce, this kind of compounds. And also we saw in some of our experiments an increase in the stomatal conductance and also an increase in the CO2 exchange that at the end of the day is so important from the photosynthesis point of view and from the yield point of view. And also, as Luis mentioned, in some of our results, we saw, some suppression in disease and insect attack. That is an area where we are working more in order to understand how Parka is reducing, the incidence of diseases or insect attack. We need to understand a little bit more about the mode of action of our technologies in this area, but it's a fact. Actually, I will show to you some of the results that we had and in this area, and you will see how Parka is reducing the insect attack and the pathogen colonization. We have been talking about yield and fruit quality, and let's talk a little bit about fruit quality and the role of the cuticle. Isabel this morning was talking a lot about that and how, it's important, the cuticle, even in post-harvest. But let's remember that some of the fruit quality attributes are size, fruit appearance, fruit firmness, flavor, sugar, acids, aroma volatiles, the presence of physiological disorders, decay and insect damages, and among others. But those are the most important quality attributes at consumer level. And in the other side, you can see the role of the cuticle in fruit quality. Isabel was talking about water loss reduction, fruit appearance, texture. Dr. Rose was talking about the texture and how the cuticle is playing an important role in to keep the firmness. And firmness is so important at consumer level and decay incidence. When we talk about abiotic and biotic stress, for sure that both stresses are affecting yield and quality and increasing the losses during the supply chain, in the orchard, some cases in post-harvest. And we need to keep in mind that because if we look at fruit quality and yield losses, fruit cracking, doubling in the case of cherries, sunburn, rusting, decay incidence, insect damage are important and are affecting at the end of the day the yield and the number of boxes that we can pack in post-harvest and can go to the market. This is challenging because, when we are working in the fruit production, the supply chain from the orchard to the final consumer is long, and there are several steps in this supply chain, and in each of those steps, we can lose quality and yield. And as we were talking this morning, the cuticle is so important from the field, from early stages of development in the fruits to the post-harvest, in a cold room or in a shelf life. Isabel was talking about that. But it's important to keep, the cuticle health across the entire supply chain to be sure that at the end of the day, we will arrive with the fruit that the consumers, they are looking for. Because at the end of the day, somebody must pay the bill and are the consumers, and they are looking for fruits with better quality. Till now, everything is okay? My English is acceptable? Okay, it's not easy to speak in another language that is not the mother tongue, but I'm doing my best. Okay, let's talk and to see some examples around cuticle enhancement. And let's start with this first area where we can improve, fruit quality and yield. And it's related to the reduction of microfractures and cracking at the end at harvest time, to increase the elasticity of the cuticle and to improve, the water repellency. And we were talking a little bit this morning about cuticle deposition in relationship with the fruit development. And this is a work that was performed on cherries, where you can see the cuticle deposition in comparison to the fruit development. And you can see that in early stages of development, the cuticle deposition is enough to cover the entire fruits. But when the cell expansion starts and the fruit growing is going fast, perhaps the cuticle deposition is not enough to cover the entire fruit, and we can have micro crackings at these early stages of development, are small fruits. But at this stage, we're creating micro cracking, and these micro crackings are quite related with the cracking at harvest. And if we can supplement the cuticle in this early stage of development, we can reduce the microfractures, and by this way, at harvest, to reduce the incidence of cracking. And this is a very nice experiment that was conducted by some colleagues in Spain, in IRTA, some years ago. We were looking in this experiment at the effect of Parka to mitigate drug stress, but the colleagues, they were looking at, the cuticle deposition, and they were looking at how Parka can modify in some way the cuticle deposition. And you can see how Parka can improve, the epicuticular area, the thickness, but also it's affecting, the total cuticle deposition. And we were talking this morning and at lunchtime with some colleagues about the composition and the characteristic of the cuticle and how Parka can modify that, because Parka is modifying the structure and the characteristics. But we need to know more about that to better understand the effects that we have with Parka in other areas beyond cracking. This is a very nice, summary of the results from different seasons in cherry cracking. All of you, know the effect of Parka reducing cracking on cherries. But this graph can summarize in a very nice way how Parka is reducing, the cracking in different varieties, different geographies. Luis was talking a little bit about it, how research can help to develop strong recommendations that will work globally in different geographies, different varieties. And this is a very good example. The response in cracking is pretty consistent across varieties, across geographies. And in average, we can see this kind of reduction in around 40% of reduction in cracking. This is another example now on table grapes. It's another crop that we are working now. We are pushing hard to develop, Parka in the case of table grapes in different geographies, reducing cracking when we have, rain events during the season. And again, here you can see how consistent is the response of, grapes in terms of cracking when we apply Parka. Another crop where we are working is on apples, and this is a result in microcracking reduction in the case of Fuji apples. For Fujis, this is a problem in some areas, and it's a problem from the quality point of view because you are affecting the fruit appearance. And of course, when you have cracking, you have open doors for the pathogens to go on to colonize the tissue. But this is another area where Parka can help reducing the microcracking in the case of Fuji in this pedicel area. Another example in this area is the russet reduction. For some apple varieties, russet is a serious issue, especially in some growing areas. This is an example of the reduction of russet when you apply Parka alone, or when you combine Parka with GA4 and 7. That is a tool that the growers, they use to reduce russet in different apple varieties. But we can see a sort of synergy when we apply Parka and GA4 and 7. And this is an important area for other varieties like Envy, for example. Envy is a variety that can develop a lot of russet in growing conditions where the humidity is high during the development of the fruits. But you can see this kind of synergies between Parka and some PERs. This is another example how an improvement in the cuticle could help to reduce skin disorders. Now we are looking at a result coming from California last season in the reduction of staining for these autumn snow pitches, and you can see clearly how Parka applied 3 times during the season or 4 times can reduce the incidence of stain in the case of pitches, and increase, of course, the number of bugs packed per acre. Let's talk a little bit about the stress. We were talking this morning about the stress and how the cuticle is important for the plants to interact with the environment and to be prepared and to be more resilient against the environment when the environment is tough. Let's talk a little bit about the reduction in oxidative compounds and better membrane stability and stress mitigation and some of the results here. And when we talk about the stress mitigation, I think we are talking about photosynthesis and how to keep, good photosynthesis under stress conditions. And in this experiment that was conducted in IRTA some years ago in cherries, you can see in this table different parameters that are talking about the stress and also are talking about, photosynthesis and the condition, stomata, CO2 exchange, stomata conductance, transpiration, SPAD, and also, leaf water potential. And you can see here how Parka is improving almost all the parameters associated to stress and photosynthesis. And this is the reason why we can see, effects in this area. This result is part of the experiment that we conducted with colleagues in IRTA looking at drug stress and how Parka can mitigate drug stress. And in this experiment, the colleagues, they decide to go deep and to look at the gene expression in tomatoes treated with Parka, not treated with Parka. And at the end of the day, it's a complicated, table or picture with different results. But at the end of the day, the main conclusion of this experiment is plants treated with Parka are more resilient to the stress because an important number of genes related to abscisic acid pathway or the synthesis of phospholipids is totally different, the gene expression in plants treated with Parka versus plants not treated. In the plants not treated, it seems that, more genes are activated to be defend against the drug stress. And in the case of Parka, it is not necessary to do that because the plant is more resilient. But let's have a look at some results coming from our experiments. Again, this is a summary of results from different trials, different varieties, different regions, and here you can see the reduction in sunburn on apples for different varieties. That is an important, quality attribute at consumer level. The same exercise, and this is the case of clementines in California, and here you can see a comparison between Parka and calcium carbonate against the untreated control, and you can see that the reduction in sunburn when you apply Parka is similar to the level of reduction that you have with calcium carbonate, but you will see in a slide which is the difference between both technologies. This is another experiment coming from last season, Granny Smith growing in Pacific Northwest, and here you can see a comparison between Surround and Parka in terms of sunburn reduction, and you can see that the performance from Parka is much better in comparison to Surround. And perhaps this is one of the most important attributes of the technology when you talk about sunburn and you compare Parka with other technologies like calcium carbonate, kaolins, or others, is the fruit appearance and the leaf appearance, because Parka is not affecting the leaf appearance and it's not affecting the photosynthesis. When you apply this kind of white products, in some way you are affecting the photosynthesis, but from the post-harvest point of view, if you look at the fruit treated with Parka in comparison to the fruits treated with calcium carbonate, there is a big difference, because to clean up this white product in the packing line is not really easy. And actually when you need to clean and to put more detergents, more brushes in the packing line, some cases you are increasing, disorders in post-harvest, like lentil breakdown, for example, or scaffing, because you need to be aggressive to clean this white product. On the other hand, when you use Parka, it is not necessary to go through this aggressive process to clean the product. This is another example sunburn reduction, in this case in Chardonnay wine grapes here in California. This could be a serious issue for wine grape in different areas, the sunburn that will affect at the end of the day the quality of the wine. And this was the reason why we decided to conduct this trial last season in California. And you can see again a reduction of the sunburn when you apply Parka. When you go to citrus, and if you look at the distribution per quality category, this is an experiment that we conducted here in California on oranges, and you can see the quality distribution the distribution for quality categories, and you can compare control versus Parka. And if you go on to look at the Sunkist category, that is the highest quality category, you can see a clear increase of the percentage of fruits in this category when you apply Parka. And this is related to, sunburn reduction or, some other improvements in fruit quality. But when we talk about the stress, it is important to keep in mind that the stress is not only during the fruit development season. We need to look at the stress after harvest. Sometimes we harvest and, okay, it's done. We finished the season. But we need to think in what happened after the harvest. This is a graph that is showing, the temperatures in Chile during the cherry season, during the development of the fruits in November, December, but also is showing, the temperatures during January, February, and March, post-harvest. That is a critical period because all of us, we know that during this period after harvest, in the case of cherries, the plants, they are working in the differentiation. And when you have a differentiation and a stress during this period, you can increase the number of doubles and spores for the next season. But also we need to keep in mind that the plant during this period is running photosynthesis to improve, the accumulation of reserves to start the next cycle. And this is an example of the effect of Parka when you apply Parka after harvest to mitigate the stress during this critical period. And the number of or the percentage of doubles next season. And you can see the comparison between the untreated with Parka and kaolin, and you can see the significant reduction in the case of doubles when you apply Parka. Let's talk a little bit about increasing photosynthesis and how Parka can help. We saw those results coming from IRTA, Spain, when you can see that the stomatal conductance is different when we apply Parka, and also we are increasing the net CO2 exchange. Only to remember the results that we saw from IRTA some years ago. And when you have a better photosynthesis, of course you can have a better yield because you have more energy, and the fruits can grow in a better way. And this is a summary of different experiments conducted on almonds, different seasons, and you can see the increase in yield when we apply Parka 3 times during the season, starting early at fruit set. This is a result coming from last season. Here you can see 3 different varieties, Independence, Nonpareil, and Carmel, and you can see for all of them the increase in yield when we apply Parka. It's pretty consistent, the result, again, across different varieties and different geographies. And all of that is related to the photosynthesis. Also, we were measuring, nut retention in young Independence almonds last season to find an explanation also from the fruit set point of view and nut retention. And we can see in this experiment that Parka is helping to retain more nuts per tree across the season. And of course, this is affecting the yield at the end. Another experiment in this case was conducted on Caracara oranges, and you can see in the first graph in the left, the impact of the application of Parka in yield, and in the other graph, the distribution per fruit quality category, and you can see how again, Parka is increasing the percentage of fruit in the Sunkist category, that is the highest one. This is another trial. We conducted this trial in Chile 2 seasons ago, and we were looking at those small plants, our European plants, that now for our industry are important because the Chinese consumers, they are asking for those plants, but it's on a small plant. And size is a problem. And you can see in this size distribution, how Parka is improving, the percentage of fruits in the, big size categories, like it's 3G and 2G. You can see the increase in the number of fruits in those two categories that are bigger sizes. Also, when you look at pure photosynthesis and how the photosynthesis is helping, in the development of the plants, here you can see this was an experiment that was conducted years ago in the Pacific Northwest in a new planting. And you can see how Parka is improving, the development of the plant and the architecture of the plant. You can see the shoots and also the size of the plant. And it's related to the photosynthesis again. I was talking with you about the stress after harvest. And again, coming from this experiment that we conducted in Chile, last season when we applied Parka after the harvest on cherries. And the main objective was to look at the doubles and the spore reduction, but also the researcher was measuring, the stomata conductance during the season. And you can see in this graph, in the red, area, you can see 3 different treatments with Parka applying during the season, and you can see how the stomata conductance it was improved with the Parka applications in comparison to the control. And because of that, when you look at the reserves and when you look at the starch, for example, that is the last column in your right, you can see a better, starch accumulation in the roots. And this is quite related to, the photosynthesis at the end of the day. If you have a better photosynthesis, you can improve the reserves in the roots or in the shoots or in the buds for the next season. Let's talk a little bit about, disease and insect attack and how Parka can mitigate that. As Luis mentioned, this is an area where we are working, where we need to understand much better the mode of action of our technology in this mitigation. In the case of the pathogen attack, we were talking a little bit about, water repellency, reduction in microfractures and how those parameters can reduce, the incidence of the pathogen attack. But I think in the case of insects, we need to explore more. This morning, Isabel was talking about, the role of the cutin in the oviposition. And we will see in some of the results how Parka is reducing the oviposition. Let's start with, botrytis and the incidence of botrytis during post-harvest. This was an experiment conducted in strawberries. You can see different harvest time from an early harvest, harvest 1, to a late harvest, number 4. And you can see in this graph a comparison between Parka and treated control, Parka in combination with switch, that is a normal fungicide used in the case of strawberries, and switch alone. And you can see in the yellow bars how Parka is reducing the incidence of botrytis across different harvest times. And also you can see in the light gray bars the combination with the Parka and switch, and you can see a sort of synergy that at the end of the day could be related to different mode of actions, because Parka is improving, the cuticle health, reducing microfractures, improving the resistance or the water repellency. And, the fungicide is doing, his action at the pathogen itself. This is another example. In this case, we are looking at some results on rhizopus, again, in strawberries, different harvest times. And again, now in the graph, you are looking at the percentage of control, not incidence. And you can see how Parka, is working in order to control rhizopus. And also you can see a sort of a synergy when Parka is applied with, standard products used to control this pathogen. Some years ago, a colleague in Chile, Karina Bussetti, she started to look at the effect of Parka in oviposition on cherries. And in this graph, you can see, in blue bars, the untreated control, yellow bars, Parka, and in gray bar, a erythroid. And you can see how Parka is reducing, the oviposition, the number of eggs in the fruits in comparison to the control. Of course, we are not reaching the same level that the insecticide, but we are mitigating in some way the oviposition on cherries. Another entomologist, Chris Adams at Oregon State University, he did an experiment that it was pretty creative, and he put Parka in half of the fruit, as you can see in the picture. You can see, half of the fruit treated with Parka, and half of the fruit not treated. And he put those cherries in a small chamber with a lot of insects, with a pretty dense population of insects in this small chamber. And after some hours, he went to evaluate and to look at the oviposition in the surface of the fruits and also inside the fruits. And this was the result. You can see in this graph how, in the control half, you have an important number of eggs inside the fruit that are, the red bars. And when you look at the half treated with Parka, you can see that the number of eggs inside the fruit is almost nothing in comparison to the control. That at the end of the day, those eggs inside the fruits are the eggs that are causing issues because of the oviposition and also the larva that will came from the egg. This is a video showing how this insect is trying to do an oviposition in a fruit treated with Parka, and you can see that it seems that Parka is being a barrier for the insect to do a good oviposition. But again, we need to better understand if we are talking about a mode of action related to physical characteristics or modifications in the cuticle, in the topography, in the surface, in the compounds, or if we are talking also about an effect in the communication between the female and the host. This was a very nice discovery last season. We performed a trial in California to look at the effect of Parka reducing sunburn. And one day we received a call from the person in charge of the orchard saying that in the area treated with Parka, she saw a different or a reduction in the thrips damage in the fruits. And we decided to go and to run an objective evaluation, and this is the result. And you can see how Parka was reducing, the incidence of thrips attack in oranges, and you can see also, the severity. But it's a fact we can reduce, the thrips attack in oranges. Now we're conducting a trial with UC Riverside to better understand the reason why. This is a table summarizing, the three areas where our technology is improving yield and fruit quality, and different quality attributes like cracking, russet reduction, doubles and spurs, sunburn, yield increase, botrytis incidence, oviposition in the case of Drosophila suzuki, or thrips damage. And you can see how consistent is the response of different crops in different quality attributes to the Parka application. And this number, this percentage, is showing a summary of different experiments in different areas, different varieties, and could show to you how consistent is the response. Luis mentioned that we are developing another product in our portfolio. Some of you are aware of that or have been working with this product. The name of this product is Calur. As Luis mentioned, it's a blend of potassium and a phospholipid that is stimulating the anthocyanin biosynthesis. Here in this figure, you can see, the anthocyanin biosynthesis during the apple development. And let's go on to see some of the results from our experiments. This is color development on Rainier cherries, and here you can see in this trial control, Calur, and Calur plus extend day. And in red bars, you can see the category with the highest color development, more than 50% of the area with red color, and you can see how Calur, and especially Calur in combination with Extend Day, can increase, the percentage of fruits in this category. And when you talk about Calur plus Extend Day, again, you are talking about two different mode of actions because, Extend Day is improving, the light interception by the fruit, and Calur is, stimulating the activity of some enzymes related to the anthocyanin biosynthesis. This is another result at commercial level. Here you can see the color distribution in Rainier cherries in Washington State. We conducted this demo trial last season with a grower, and you can see again how color is improving, the percentage of fruits in the highest color category. Another example now in the case of Gelas in the Pacific Northwest from last season, and you can see how Calur is improving the percentage of fruits with more than 75% of red color. Another example, this is a trial coming from Chile in Ambrosias under net. In several regions today, the growers, they are using nets because of the hailstone or to reduce sunburn. And all of us, we know when we have apples growing under net, one of the problems is to have, a very good, color development. And here in this graph, even if we are not moving too much the needle for the highest color category, if you look at the less color category, less than 25%, you can see how color is reducing the percentage of fruits in this poor color category. That at the end of the day is important too. Another important thing to consider for Calur is not affecting the maturity. We are touching only, the anthocyanin biosynthesis, but we are not affecting, the maturity of the ripening of the fruits, because there are some other products that can increase, color development, but can affect negatively, the maturity and the ripening. Another example, how Calur can improve coloring in the case of plums from California. And you can see how Calur is improving the percentage of fruits in the highest colored category. Now an example combining Parka and Calur in a program to improve coloring. Ashraf this morning was talking a little bit about how Parka, in the case of table grapes, can help to develop color. And here you can see synergies between Parka and Calur. And this is a Rainier trial that was performed last season in a program combining Parka, applied 3 times, fruit set, stroke color, and 2 or 1 week before harvest, plus Calur applied at stroke color and 2 or 1 week before harvest. And you can see, the increase in the highest colored category. Another example in Rainier cherries. Here you can see the yield and also the gross return per acre in different situations, Calur alone, Parka only, or a combination of both products. And you can see how the combination could be a really powerful tool to increase yield and also gross return per acre. Another example now combining Parka and Calur on apples. And you can see again, an increase in yield and also in the gross return per acre for apples. This is a result coming from table grapes, flame last season here in California. And again, you can see a combination between Parka and Calur in a program. And you can see, the harvest distribution, that at the end of the day is an important parameter. When you are improving, color development, you can harvest in a better maturity stage. And by this way, you can have a better post-harvest. This is a pain now in different regions because some cases you don't have the color and you must wait and to delay your harvest to have, a better color development. But in this delay, you are losing post-harvest life. And this is so important, how to improve color to harvest at the right time to have a better post-harvest life. And Luis was talking a little bit about it. As a Cultiva, we create a new category of biostimulants, that is, plant critical health. And we are so proud of that. And also I want to thank my colleagues, Bailey Picker and Andrea Sepulveda. They did a great job, working with growers and researchers in different areas, collecting information. And thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Bailey, because part of this presentation is your work. And thank you very much for your attention. I think we have time for questions, or you want to keep the questions for the round table, Tiago?
Anybody has any questions? You can fire up, Phil.
Daniel, when you talk about the new product color,
Uh-huh.
one of the drawbacks of the potassium when you spray it on a table cake is the size. You can set back the size of the berries. Do you see any effect on the size?
Andrea, I cannot remember if we saw something in the berry size last season in our experiments, but I think no. We need to double check, but I think we didn't see, an effect in size.
That's a common negative effect of
Yeah,
potassium.
yeah. But, calur is a blend of potassium and also a phospholipid. But yeah, perhaps we need to put more attention at, the effect, possible effect in size of the berries. But I cannot remember a clear effect last season from our experiments. Yes? Stem or in cherries, in seasons on apples. But are you talking about cracking, stem cracking? The split. I don't know. Last season we conducted some trials in Spain with IRTA looking at cracking in the case of Gelas. But in my experience, the cracking, the pedicel or the stem cracking in Gelas is more related to the maturity. Actually, there is a very good correlation between ethylene production and maturity and cracking development. If you use products like Retain or Harvista in pre-harvest, you can mitigate a lot this cracking because it's more related to maturity. This is my experience. Yes?
Couple quick different questions. The first one about color on your trials there, they had potassium in it.
Yeah, we have some potassium. Yeah.
Did you run any treatments with just straight potassium?
No. In a fair comparison with potassium? No. No, no, no.
And then the other question, have you seen any effect on decreasing leaf copper feeding or maybe not using Parka?
No.
Potential anecdotally trips and reduction in trips.
Not really, but it's an area where we are working more and we need to better understand, as I said to you, the mode of action. But no. No.
It might have been mentioned on some of your bar charts, but have you developed recommendations for color on yellow cherries as far as timing and number of applications?
Yep. Yeah. In the case of cherries, are you talking about Rainiers or this kind of bicolor varieties? Yeah, I think the recommendation is pretty clear. Actually, if you look at the anthocyanin biosynthesis, we'll start in a straw because of that you can see the change in the color, and we apply another application, a second application near harvest to reinforce. But perhaps the only thing is to better understand which of both applications is doing the heavy lifting. That I think is the first one, because at the end of the day, our product will stimulate the activity of one of the enzymes related in the pathway of the anthocyanins. And I think early applications are important because you are stimulating, the activity of this enzyme early in the season. But I think in tough seasons or in tough growing areas, the second application is important to reinforce, the first one.
The majority of the trials and demo uses we have now would be doing straw applications and then 10 days before harvest the second shot on cherries.
More questions? Comments? I think it's pretty clear. You're welcome.